today we have with us Mr. Venkat from eVidyaloka. Mr. Venkat has held various engineering positions in the field of software product and IT application development in companies like Aditi, Citigroup, Honeywell, Microsoft, and Dell. He is a passionate technologist who gets excited about applying technology to solve chronic social challenges of India, and eVidyaloka is a dream to be realized in that direction, in the form of a social enterprise that he's running currently. Thank you so much for joining us, Mr. Venkat. It's a pleasure having you.
Yeah, wonderful. Thank you for having me today here, Deepak. In fact, it's my pleasure and privilege to share certain perspectives and another audience.
So, jumping right ahead into the conversation, so how are you using technology to solve the crawling challenges, as you call them, of the country through eVidyaloka?
I come from a technology background, Deepak. I've been kind of spending most of my career post-engineering in the technology industry. And there's something always kind of runs in my mind that we are solving large world issues as an IT capital in this country, and then and at scale. Right? In fact, my last engagement was rolling out Windows 8 across the world, 25 factories of Dell, and kind of impacting 1 billion users. Right? So that's been a driving factor to see the challenges that we face in our nation. Specifically the socially important ones like the education, healthcare, etc. While we have a lot of efforts going on, some of the solutions really require scale, and I strongly believe technology has to play a role in actually the interventions that require to be addressed to the magnitude that a country like ours has. So with that kind of as a driving force, we kind of always bring my technology competencies that we have learned, but the passion for solving our own nation's issue. We really looked at technology not just as, it's not the end in itself, right? So one of the core principle, or a couple of principles of the way how we kind of introduce and continue to use technology for this issue of quality education in our country, Deepak, is basically a multi-pronged, right? Where one core guiding principle is that it is the audience that we are talking, we reach really to the remote and rural children, right? So one of the first principle is very non-invasive and friendly for the children in the classroom, where there is no learning curve for them to participate in a technology-driven intervention. One, right? Two, we do not use technology just to stay on its cutting edge. Right? We really look at what does it take to deliver the eventual impact of this online learning to drive the learning outcome. So guiding on these two principles, we have been kind of adopting probably a 4 or 5 pronged strategy, right? So one, leverage existing ones like your broadband, ICT networks and things like that, right? Then you kind of adopt existing technologies like Skype, Hangout, Google, right, for the video conferencing to start with, and then many more, right? And apply many such productivity tools in the process. Google Apps, OneDrive, right? Adobe, right? So many kind of you apply some of this technology, and then of course we build that is something very unique to this whole model, right? So it's a combination of it, and the last one is where the IP is kind of being generated, or the eVidyaloka's technology platform that enables the remote learning teaching, which is called Jupyter internally, right? But it's basically a proprietary platform that enables the remote delivery framework processes. So it's a gamut as far as the implementation or enablement of the online education, the core value creation in the process, which is something is close to my heart, right? That we need, and this product or the platform that we kind of build understands the ecospace, the Indian ecosystem, the rural context, right? The participating children, right? And kind of factors that in to make the online learning happen.
Now coming back to eVidyaloka, so it started in 2011 and today it has presence in 2,237 villages in 10 states and reaches approximately 19,000 children and the families of rural India. So what are some of the challenges that you had to go through to reach the scale that you have reached currently, and what still remains to be solved in order to expand the reach further?
Sure. Yeah. So I look at it in two prisms, or one can look at it in two prisms, right? So we could kind of qualify certain areas as challenges and then say, this helped and overcome here when we started the online teaching in 2011 and we are here today. The other way, how I have been looking at it is that's exactly what the journey is all about, right? It's been a challenge kind of on every step. It's just kind of how to overcome it, right? From that point of view, if you look at it, I will just say two things as the initial rather myths, Deepak, right? So when we kind of looked at doing an online teaching in a remote village like in a northern part of Jharkhand was like, what is there even electricity, right? Is the first starting point. And will the children participate in the technology driven? They have not even seen a keyboard or mouse in their life, right? And then you have another perspective or a notion that can a teacher be able to justify on a virtual medium, right? Will that impact the pedagogy, right? So in fact, that's been one of the first, I would say, the challenge to overcome the very initial days of it, what I call the two clear myths, right? Where we clearly saw that the child has been indeed the most promising enabler in the whole process, right? They come with an unbiased mind. They were very excited in participating in a medium, which is different from a conventional stick in the hand for a teacher on one side, right? So that clearly eliminates that they are actually the fueler or adoption of the model in itself. On the other side, we saw the teachers in the initial phase, right? That they indeed are actually developing a very strong emotional bond with the child, right? Even though they are teaching in a digital medium, right, or a virtual medium from thousands of miles apart, right? What clearly kind of emerged, which is the basis of kind of building the EVTLOCA subsequently, but is that while the medium may be virtual, the people are real actually, right? And what transmits in between is the key. So that is a kind of very fundamental block that we went over ourselves internally actually, right? Then it becomes very easy to kind of communicate and kind of have more people on board. Followed by you have a bunch of operational issues, like when you start with the people say, oh, is that broadband, right? It's not really the broadband connectivity. In fact, the BharatNet program in the previous ICT penetration is supposed to reach 200,000 panchayats, reaching 600,000 villages, and we probably have reached already 60%. Connectivity was never a challenge, but the last mile service levels had always been a challenge, right? Because the number of users per line has been less, and then kind of it disrupts then the turnaround time of enabling back that network, because there hasn't been any real life applications in those remote villages where we operate. But then over a period of time, it has only emerged, and that was a conviction that we as a nation is only getting better. Right? In 2011 or 12, we were bereft of just one option of a BSNL landline. Right? Today, we have, even in a remote place in a Gadchiroli kind of district, we have a wide range of options of a 4G, a broadband, and even WiMAX in some places actually. Right? So it has getting better. It can, and it will continue to be an evolving journey actually. Right? I mean, we as a nation are even defining the broadband speed from now 512 kbps to 1 Mbps. Few challenges we kind of see that we will continue to solve and sort out is one, the core value proposition we bring to the table is the volunteer teachers, right? So that the number of volunteer teachers, right, continue to be the factor that will drive the scale. So the challenge there for us we will continue to work on is very language specific, predictable mobilization of people, right? Say if I want to have a Telugu speaking person actually, right? So volunteers. So today we are able to gain across 6 different languages. If I want to steeply go from 200 Telugu speaking volunteers to 1,000, right, or 20,000, right? How do we go figure out, right? From an operating model point of view, right? From a business model point of view, we clearly see that we have chosen a non-profit as a vehicle, right? So it has come with its own inherent financial models, right? What is required right now to scale is like any other venture. You would need to invest upfront in technology and marketing and outreach, right? So the current, that's a model that we're kind of overall working on to see what could be the resources that will still help us reach the unaffordable and the needed in the rural parts of the country, but at the same time bring in the necessary investments, right? That's been a kind of an area that we are working on and kind of make sure that we have the right kind of financial stakeholders on board who could help scale the mission as we work on.
Now you mentioned about these last mile linkages and the kind of rural areas that you are reaching, which a lot of interventions find really tough to reach. So what would you say that you at EVidyaloka are doing differently to reach those last mile linkages and make sure that it reaches where it has to be and supposed to be?
Sure. In fact, that's absolutely. I would see it as like probably in 4 or 5 different points. So one we said, I mean, by choice we will reach to a standalone village. Right? Most of the villages that we work today are 30-40 kilometers from a tier 3, tier 4 town. Right? The sheer differentiation itself is there aren't even any interventions like that. Right? The number of NGOs that are kind of reached. What has helped us reach is the technology, right? That in itself is the reach, right? So we kind of many times when we do the feasibility and field study, we said, hey, which are all the other NGOs work? We hardly find none or 1 or 2 probably actually, right? And then do a short-term and a centralized one as reach. Right? So reaching to that kind of place in itself, which technology allows us to today, right, is clearly one differentiating thing. But the most significant that we had learned and cracked over this 6 to 7 years, Deepak, is the a very strong local partnership. We do not approach an NGO directly, or I mean a school or a village directly as eVidyaloka. That's something we have learned in the process, right? And I say very India-centric, we understand it. This is one key point, right? We as a nation, the trust and relationship are in our cultural ethos, right? We value trust over business, right? And we believe that a local NGO partner has got a lot more trust and relationship with the school and a lot more interest and stakes in seeing their society successful. We clearly see them that they are the local stakeholders, the front of the initiative, right? And we call them as an equal delivery partners, right? Is a very key important thing where we together go to the child actually, right? In a business parlance, we go to the market together actually, right? Where they focus on the brick and mortar side of it, the school, the people, the local stakeholders, the operational challenges, building consensus, etc. Right? eVidyaloka focuses on the remote people, technology, process, etc. Right? In absence of one over the each, it will not. Right? So I call it as a click and mortar model.
So there's also a project that you're working on with Lenovo in partnership with that. So what are some of these projects that you would like to share with us?
I still remember our conversations while we were collaborating as a subject matter expert and sharing the volunteering and experiences, etc. with them in that campaign. The core objective of the Smarter Head campaign is about connecting that individual teacher and the child. Right? And we've been telling, hey, we are working in a teacher to a classroom, right, in a model, because our children do not still have access to the computers. Hence, our constituency is right now, right? Probably we see this happen in 3-4 years down the line, right? Was the statement back in December or January, right? Now, as you see here, when we converse, it just got accelerated, right? Yeah. So where rural children and they can be connected on an individual basis. So we clearly are looking at 2-3 things, right? This is one, an initiative with Lenovo, the Smarter Head initiative, where a teacher and the child kind of comes together and then individual one-on-one sessions happen. We are exploring how to kind of mainstream it for the rural parts of the country where we operate. Second, as we speak, while the learning is disrupted, we have introduced the Learn from Home initiative, right? Where we are now able to take our volunteer teachers right into the homes of the child whose parents have got mobile phones and internet. Of course, not all the children in the community that we kind of have, but we are technologically making sure that this works, it helps, we kind of gain expertise and insights through this space. And we only see that the adoption is going to get accelerated, right? And we are also blending it with the current one is a synchronous solution, right? We're also blending it with asynchronous of being able to deliver videos, homeworks, etc. in an SMS or through a local resource cascaded approach to reach those children who do not have still or are not able to afford a phone or a data actually on it.
And lastly, what would be some nuggets of suggestions that you would have for other organizations who are working in the sector? Considering that you've been able to reach the last mile, you've been able to implement technology in the ways that they need to be, and you've also been able to be agile enough to be working with the newest interventions, newest portions of organizations, and also working with corporates for your interventions.
Sure. I mean, there are clearly 2 things, Deepak, I would definitely like to share. Generally, in the social space today, it is still a notion that technology is overhead and technology is a spend, right? There is still a general mindset that, hey, if I have 1 lakh, I would like to feed 100 students, right? Than spend on a tech app or a solution, right? I really believe would want to kind of highlight and reiterate in this context that if we are looking at to scale, right, or even otherwise, right, some of the possibilities that the technology will unleash, I would encourage really the organizations to see this really as an investment, develop that competency, minimum competency that is required, right? And we're also seeing the donor community is also highly open. It's only the mindset that today is seen as overhead. They recognize it, they acknowledge it, and are willing to support and fund and not see this as an overhead and really as an investment, right? So I really want to kind of encourage or advocate for that open mindset, right? Social space is more different. In fact, it's even more required here because you need efficiency and you need reach at the lowest cost actually, right? And you need transparency. And technology brings all the three in this space. The second key thing I would like to kind of share, which is learning for me also through this process and do it here, is any intervention is a well-meaning solution. They really come out with some creative solutions, right? But while they all come out understanding the gaps in the existing system, right? Especially in education, healthcare, or other places. If an intervention or an organization looking to really do scale, I think they need to start. I can tell this with authority that if you want to scale, you have to learn the government system and your intervention should work along it actually, right? From day one, right? If you want to really mainstream your initiative, right, it has to be aligned with the larger systems, policies, process and priorities actually, right? The smaller ones will not fit in howsoever super cool it is, right, and high impactful. It has to be aligned with the larger policy and the priorities of the government system.
Yep.
And one needs to learn, and government will continue to be the primary stakeholder of this target intended audience that we are looking to reach at. That's something I kind of feel every day, and we constantly think through in designing our programs, and I would definitely encourage others to also do the same way.
Thank you so much for joining us, Mr. Venkat. It's been a pleasure having you and conversing with you about the sector and your expertise in it. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for actually having me.